Hey, what's up guys, it's Apollo Uchiha here, back with another part of What If Naruto A Mother's Love. If you haven't, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and without further ado, let's continue our story. Naruto. Kushina turned the corner of the hall and saw him. He looked back at her and spoke in an eerily calm voice. Hi mom. Then he turned back around. He was looking at the handiwork he did. 5 men were scattered along the floor in front of him, their blood still flowing out and growing into a larger and larger pool of their own blood. She ran up to her son and took him in a fierce embrace. Are you alright? Are you hurt? He slowly shook his head. I'm fine, mom. Not even a scratch on me. When she let go of him, he stood where he was and continued to look at the bloody scene. She understood, carefully taking his face in her hands, and she turned him around so his back was to the men. Naruto, you did what you had to do, what I trained you to do. If you had not done what you did, these men would have gladly killed you. You had nothing to feel ashamed of or guilty about. She spoke to him gently. He nodded. I know that, mom, I do. And when I was doing it, I was fine. It was just like training. I didn't see people. I only saw targets, and I hit those targets. But now? He gulped and looked down ashamed. I understand, Naruto-kun. To be a shinobi is a hard thing, and to be forced to be one so young is even harder. In many ways, son, I wish you could have a different life. But for you, Naruto-kun, there is no choice. You must walk the path of a shinobi. What you did? What did you say your sensei very first lesson was? She said, trying to reason with him. He looked up again. She was not surprised to see some tears there. Iruka sensei said that the path of shinobi was the path of death and glory, that we must always be ready to kill or die to protect our village. That is what it means to be a shinobi, he sighed. It's the same thing that you and Nissan have told me. I understand it. It's just, the reality is never how you imagine it to be, she said simply. She gently wiped his tears away and smiled at him proudly. Taking a life should never be done without a cause, Naruto. When we kill, we do so in self-defense or in those who we service our villages. That is what separates us from common murderers or bandits. So long as when you act, it is under one of those two conditions, do not doubt about that or your actions. They are just. Does it get easier? He asked. She nodded. It does. In time, you will learn to simply kill and not feel. He shuddered a bit. That sounds horrible, don't you think? She slowly nodded. In a way, it is. But, Naruto-kun, do you want to feel this every time you are forced to kill? Could you bear it? Kakashi and I have both killed many in our times, and I think we are both good people somehow with both good hearts. But if we could not turn our hearts off when we needed to, we would go mad. He looked at her unhappily. You turn your hearts off? Kushina nodded. We learn not to feel at those times. It is the only way to do it and stay sane. Mom, it sounds kind of inhumane. It is, son. But if you are a shinobi, you cannot always afford to be a human. She hugged him again and kissed him. Do not misunderstand me. I do not mean to deaden your heart all the time, for that is just as bad as feeling too much. Be human, love, laugh, and even cry when your heart tells you to. But learn to be only shinobi when the time calls for it. Naruto looked at her and slowly nodded. I think I understand. Good. She took a hold of his arm and led him away and down another hall out of the sight of what had happened. She took on a fierce look. Let's go find your sensei who was supposed to be watching out for you. Link break. His mother had been absolutely livid that her son had been attacked at the academy by an instructor. She had demanded that Mizuki be discharged of incompetence for allowing her son to go to an assassination attempt. But Naruto had defended his sensei, pointing out that all Mizuki had done was agree to a reasonable request from his fellow instructor. Kushina had then demanded she be allowed to remain in the class to watch over him. The Hokage explained that he could not allow such an extreme disruption to affect an entire class. She ultimately was faced with the choice of either allowing Naruto to remain in the academy under the current circumstances or allow him to take the guardian graduation exams and beginning his shinobi career immediately. Kushina was not interested in the second option, but not only because she wanted him to continue building more friendships and connections, but because she wanted to delay his becoming of a ninja as long as possible. As dangerous as life in Konoha was for him, she knew the danger would only increase once he began going on missions to foreign countries. She wanted him as strong and ready as possible before the day came. So in the end, Naruto remained in class. The Hokage did agree to keep an ambush squad on duty near the academy whenever he was there. Kushina was not the only parent upset by the attack. Most of the other parents were also irate and, not surprisingly, blamed Naruto for being the cause. Most of the parents petitioned the Hokage to have Naruto removed from the class. The Hokage refused to punish him for being attacked while on the academy grounds. The parents then demanded that their children be placed in different classes. This demand was also refused as there were no other first-year classes available. The Hokage did agree that the students could be pulled out and allowed to repeat the opening course the following fall. A couple of parents did this, but the others declined as it would mean wasting a full year of their children's education and ninja careers. For the students, that the fact that Naruto had actually killed a Chunin settled his standing in their eyes. He was, as Kiba liked to say, the pack leader. The only ones unwilling to acknowledge this fact were Sasuke and Sakura. As the semester continued, the pecking order became clear and was best symbolized by the weekly sparring matches. Naruto never lost. Sasuke never lost, except to Naruto. Nata was clearly the most powerful Konoichi, and her swift and crippling Juiken strikes completely overwhelmed all the other girls and nearly all the boys as well. She never defeated Naruto, but she was nearly managed to beat Sasuke once. The top 3 slots in the class were cemented. As for their social skills, the girls with the glaring expectations of Sakura were still infatuated with him. Ino was even more eager to be with him than before, though she never again offered to train with him. She tried finding ways to spend time with him outside the class, but Naruto declined. Hinata continued to train with him as much as she could and still worked on improving her Juken style. She remained the one at his side. Naruto made 2 additional male friends. Kiba liked him because he recognized him as pack leader and admired his strength and leadership. Choji was also drawn in mostly thanks to Shikamaru. He was invited to and attended Kiba's birthday party. This he found quite fun as he got to play with all the Inuzuka dogs. As the fall semester drew to its close, he was doing well, but as he was always aware, not everyone loved him. Link break. Hello, little brother. A casual voice greeted him. Nissan! Sasuke smiled. What are you doing here? My duties are done for the day, and so I decided to stop by the academy. Great, we can train together. As he spoke, his classmate continued to exit the academy. One particular student in rather eye-catching cloak drew his attention. As was his habit, he sent the student a hard look. Seeing this, the particular student returned the look with a smile and a wave of his hand. Itachi did not miss the interaction. He also had no trouble guessing the student identity given his appearance. Is that Namikaze Naruto? Yeah. Sasuke's voice dripped venom. Itachi lifted an eyebrow. You do not care for him. He is a pretender who is always showing off to get attention. Really? Hatake Kakashi speaks of him often and is lavish in his praise. This brought a scowl to Sasuke's face. Everyone says that. Iruka, Mizuki, and everyone in class. He's not that good. Sasuke spoke with an rare venomous. Itachi looked down at him. He seems to bring out a rare passion in you, little brother. Tell me, is it true he has mastered both shadow clones and summoning? Yes, Sasuke said flatly. He didn't like remembering how the little pretender had shown up on him the very first day of school. Can we stop talking about him now? Wait here a moment. Nissan, where are you going? I think I would like to meet him. Itachi replied. Sasuke could only stand there and watch as his revered older brother bent over and talked to the little pretended Hokage. Link break. Pardon me, a polite voice asked. The 4 of them had just been leaving the academy grounds. Kushina brought them to a halt. The ninja approach was vaguely familiar. You're Uchiha Itachi. Kushina said carefully. She did not have a good opinion of the Uchihas. Naruto seemed to have developed a strong dislike to Uchihas for Sasuke, especially, though he refused to share any details with her, and she had never forgiven Fugaku for being the one leading the baying of Naruto's blood. I met you once at the tower, I remember. He offered her a slight bow, but then who could forget meeting the famed Namikaze Kushina? The 2 of them eyed one another warily and with a mutual respect. They had much in common. They were both respectful and powerful shinobi who took pride in their uncommon skill. They also shared the basic Anbu philosophy of doing whatever it took to get the job done. But there was one core difference between them. Itachi sought out personal excellence with a calm detachment. His deliberately attempt to deaden or otherwise ignore his emotions. To Itachi, feelings were determined. They were obstacles to be overcome so that one could learn what one was truly capable of. Kushina was in the same respect his opposite. She used her brain to set her strategy and figure out the best way to achieve it. But it was always her heart that guided her steps. Everything she had done, everything she had endured, had been for the sake of her love. Her love for her husband and later on her son. To Kushina, her emotions were her reason for being and what gave her life meaning. Perhaps sensing what they had in common and what they did not, they stood there eyeing each other like a pair of lions in a cage. And how can I help you, Itachi? Kushina asked cautiously. Actually, he lowered his gaze. I wanted to meet your son. This is Naruto, right? Itachi's interest in her son gave her a small chill. She stood directly behind him and placed a hand on his shoulder. He is Naruto. This is Uchiha Itachi. He is Sasuke's older brother, the heir to the Uchiha clan, and an Anbu captain. Naruto nodded to him respectfully. I am pleased to meet you, Itachi-san. I am also quite pleased to meet you, Naruto. He tilted his head. May I call you Naruto-kun? Naruto shrugged. If you like. Does that mean I can call you Itachi-kun? He gave a single nod. You may. Tell me, might I take a closer look at you? That was a very odd request, and Naruto nodded. Alright. Itachi went down to one knee and put his face on Naruto's level. And about 2 feet away, he shut his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, his pupils were both red. The Sharingan, Naruto said. You seen it before? Itachi sounded a little surprised. Where? Kakashi Nisan showed me his. Itachi nodded. Yes, that would make sense now. Why are you looking at me with your Sharingan? I'm not performing a jutsu or anything. Naruto felt just a little bit like squirming. Whenever I use my Sharingan, I always feel like I can see more clearly. I am curious to truly see you. What do you see? Naruto asked a bit interested. Itachi tilted his head a bit. A mystery. He paused for a bit. Sasuke does not like you. Naruto frowned. I don't like him either. I think he's an arrogant jerk. Naruto! Kushina scolded. That is quite alright. I find this blunt truthfulness refreshing. Itachi sent him a silver, thin smile. Too many people only speak the truth when it is convenient. It speaks well of you that you can speak it even though when it is not so. Though you will need to learn when to speak and when to not say anything at all. Tell me something, Naruto-kun. Do you know why so many people in the village hate you? Both he and Kushina stiffened a bit. Why are you asking him that? Kushina said frostily. I have always been curious why the son of Konoha's greatest hero should be so despised by so many. I have always found the fact to be an enigma. I suspect that there is a reason. I have asked my father and others, but no one would give me any information. I don't know why people hate me. It has never made any sense to me either. I've just kind of come to accept it, I guess, Naruto said. Itachi lifted his gaze a bit to look at Kushina. And you, Kushina, do you know why your son is hated by those his father saved? Kushina glared at him and tightened her grip on her son's shoulder just a bit. Did Itachi know? How old would he have been on that night? 8? 9? Would Fukaku have told him the truth before the son then passed his law? She couldn't very well ask him directly, and she damn well wasn't going to ask Fukaku. What sort of game are you playing? I'm very sorry, but I'm afraid I don't know either. Itachi looked at her intently. You are lying. Naruto looked at her. Mom? Damn you. Itachi, are you actually calling me Namikaze Kushina, clan head of Namikaze, a liar? She said with a pause. A little bit of threat laying underneath the words. Yes, he said calmly. He looked to Naruto again. As you can see, Naruto-kun, telling inconvenient truth is indeed uncommon. If you think I will remain here and be insulted by you, Itachi, you are sadly mistaken. We have wasted enough time. Let's go. She quickly got them moving while keeping her hold on her son. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. I am pleased to have met you. Naruto sent him back a confused look but said nothing. Link break. Naruto waited until they had returned home and he and his mother were alone. Mom? He spoke in a small voice. Yes, dear? He took a deep breath. Why do people hate me that much? She looked at her son and tried not to show the panic she felt. Dear, you heard me tell Itachi I didn't know. Mom, I saw your eyes. You were lying. He paused. And I can see you're lying now. I taught him too damn well. She felt a certain pride that her son was not someone who could be easily fooled, well, by adults. He still needs to work on reading 8-year-old girls. She looked into her son's eyes. She could see his confusion and panic. He's not ready yet. She took a deep breath. Son, have I ever done anything to put you in danger or hurt you? He looked confused and shocked. No, of course not. She knelt down before him and put her hands gently about his face. And you know that I love you, don't you? Yes, Mom. Of course I know that. She nodded. Son, do you trust that whatever I do to try to protect you, that I always act in what I think is best for you? He nodded vigorously. Yes. Then I am going to ask you to trust on me. Now, please don't ask me any more about this. When time comes, I will explain everything, I promise. Why was she so nervous? That was not something he'd seen in her face so often. She'd made a promise to him though, and he knew he could trust that. All right, Mom, I'll trust you to tell me when the time comes and you think the time is right. Thank you, dear. She pulled him into a hug and gave him a kiss on the cheek, obviously relieved. Naruto trusted his mother absolutely, but she taught him to look underneath the underneath. He couldn't help but wonder why she'd been so relieved at not telling him. What could be that bad? Link break. They had just about reached their home in the middle of the Uchiha compound when Itachi finally broke the silence. You've been very quiet, Sasuke. Normally you'd be pleading with me to train with you. It never does any good, so why bother? Sasuke said bitterly. Itachi looked him over. Does it bother you that I spoke to Naruto? No. Itachi sighed. If you truly intend to be a ninja, Sasuke, you will have to be far better at deception. Maybe you can give me some lessons on that after you get done hanging out with that pretender. Sasuke hurried inside, not really wanting anything more to do with his Nissan at the moment. Itachi watched him hurrying inside. Interesting, he said softly. At the end of the semester, they received their grades, and was traditional along with the grades they received their class rankings. I am so proud of you, Naruto-kun. Kushina grabbed her son and began planting kisses all over his face. Mom, stop! Naruto tried to sound indignant, but she didn't miss that very happy smile. My son top in his class, I am very, very proud of you. I'll tell you what, let's celebrate. Is there anything special you like to celebrate your achievement with? She saw his face light up and his mouth open. Not a katana. Ask for something else now. But why can't I have a katana? He whined. Because you're not ready for one yet, she said plainly. When will I be ready? When I say you are. He crossed his arms over his chest, stingy. She shook her head. You're not getting any katana, son. Pick something else. Well, can I have some of your special ramen? She hugged him and gave him 3 or 4 more kisses. Now that you can have. I'll go ahead and make you all the special ramen you can eat. Link break. Sasuke stood before his father and he looked at his son's academic report. History, seconds. Codes, seconds. Math, seconds. Taijutsu, seconds. Weapons, seconds. Endurance, third. Sasuke flinched at the very slight inflection his father added to the one word. Overall standing, second. Fukaku looked down at his young son. You disappoint me. Fukaku dropped the paper and walked away from him. Sasuke picked it up off the floor and slowly tore it open. Link break. Hinata stood stock still in front of her father. He was sitting behind his desk and carefully reviewing her report. Despite an overwhelming urge to press her fingers together, she stood there with her hands firmly to her sides. Finally, he looked up from the paper and at her. She prepared her for another tongue lashing. You were third, he said in a neutral tone. Yes, father, she said in a small voice. She kept her face up. A Hyuga was not supposed to ever look away from the person addressing them. She waited in dread for what was coming. Given that you trail only an Uchiha and a Namikaze, I found your performance acceptable. You do? She said, sounding lividly and relieved. That immediately brought out a frown on her father's face. Do not misunderstand me, daughter, he said in a frosty tone. You should be first in all things, he paused. However, to trail members of the other 2 elite of the clans is understandable. His eyes considered her, weighed her, and judged her. You have improved, Hinata. Perhaps you will make a worthy clan head one day. The tone was no warmer, but compared to what she was used to, his words were welcome. Arigato, father. You have been training recently with Naruto. Yes, father. I wish you to spend more time training with him and follow his regimen. I have spoken to Kushina-san and she welcomes your increased participation. For the first time she could remember, she wore a smile while in an audience with her father. Link break. The next morning, Sasuke was on the asphalt outside the academy, waiting patiently. He watched as Kushina and Kurenai delivered the pretender and his Yuga pet. He snorted in contempt. He didn't need any help to get to and from the academy each day. Yet those two were always treated with kid gloves. He watched as Kushina and Kurenai departed, and as the pretender and his little girlfriend started to walk towards the academy hand in hand. He walked out to meet them, coming to a stop directly in their path. Naruto and Hinata halted. Naruto looked at him with his usual air of confidence. Do you want anything, Sasuke? Naruto said in that too chipper tone he always used to Sasuke. It sounded more irritating than nails on a clipboard. He clenched his fist. Fight me. As if by magic, as soon as those words were spoken, all the kids in the courtyard began to gather them around them. Naruto just smiled. Say what? You heard me, pretender. I want you to fight me right here and now. Naruto's smile slowly grew. He let go of Hinata's hand and signaled her to step away. She looked at him a bit worried, but did so and joined the circle of kids who were eagerly anticipating a fight. Can't you wait until Friday? I'll be happy to kick your ass then. No more damn spars. I want a real fight. Come at me with everything you have, and I'll show you what an Uchiha can really do. Naruto's smile slipped and thinned and took on a little bit of a feral look to it. If I did that, Sasuke, I'd kill you in about 30 seconds. With that, he calmly began to saunter past the furious Uchiha. Don't turn your back on me. One sheer instinct, Sasuke pulled out a kunai and launched himself at Naruto's back. Naruto felt killer intent and acted on his own instinct. Swinging back around, he caught Sasuke's wrist with the kunai in it. With a hard twist, he snapped it and then kunai dropped from the hand. Sasuke's rash move gave his body momentum. All Naruto did was add to it by pulling him forward. He struck one leg out and tripped them, sending the proud Sasuke spilling to the ground. Immediately, he twisted about to get back to his feet. He froze at the sight and feel of Naruto's blade on his throat. He could also feel Naruto's killer intent. Naruto was standing over him. Looking down, Sasuke was the only one with a clear view of Naruto's face. He bit down to keep from gasping. Naruto's eyes were red and slitted like some animals. Given the angle of his face, Sasuke was the only one who could see it. Don't ever attack me again, Sasuke. Naruto's tone was low and fierce and very, very serious. I'm not like you. I don't have time to play your stupid games or brawls. When anyone attacks me, for any reason, my sword comes out, and when it comes out, it draws blood. If you ever attack me again, Sasuke, you had better really mean it, because I might not be able to hold back. And while I have your full attention, let me explain something to you. I don't give a damn that you're an Uchiha. As for your proving what you're capable of, I can tell you what that is. Second best. As long as I'm here, that's all you'll be, Sasuke. So get used to it. He finally put his sword up as Sasuke watched his eyes again became blue. He was sure that no one else had noticed. Even Naruto didn't seem to have realized it. Without a thought, Naruto ran his left palm over his blade, slicing it open. He quickly wiped off his blood and holstered his sword back. With that, he walked off towards his classroom. Sasuke lay there defeated and humiliated, with virtually the entire class to bear witness to it. The entire class and a few more. Link break. Itachi saw the little encounter and nodded his head in approval. His foolish little brother had initiated an encounter with a foe that had beaten him regularly. He had done so expectingly to win merely because he had Uchiha blood. That was typical of the attitude of the entire clan. They had given up trying to achieve individual excellence and instead relied on the comforting thought that they were superiors merely due to birth. Such arrogance is dangerous and led to the sort of disaster his little brother had just encountered. Now Naruto was different. He came from a great clan and had excellent blood as well, yet Naruto refused to be satisfied merely with his legacy. He pushed himself mercilessly to achieve power and gain greater skills. He was too passionate, like his mother. He had never come to understand that emotion only fostered weaknesses. Yet his drive to success was truly impressive. You truly are interesting, Naruto-kun. Link break. Kushina smiled, for once her habit of performing protective surveillances had yielded something interesting. Sasuke was still a child trying to fight a playground fight. Naruto was becoming a ninja and fought like on the ground whenever he was attacked. Regarding of the circumstances, he also had sufficient self-control not to kill the propitious little Uchiha Once he was inside, she finally headed home well pleased. Link break. He's so cool, practically shouted, and the other girls all agreed. Link break. Hinata was by his side and looking at his left hand. Hinata-kun, why did you hurt yourself? He gave her a comforting smile. Oh, it's an Uzumaki clan tradition that once a sword is drawn in combat, it cannot be holstered until it has drawn blood. He chuckled. And as tempting as it was, I didn't think it would be a good idea for me to cut that second best. But you hurt yourself, she asked worriedly. He continued to smile. Don't worry about it, Hinata-chan. I always heal fast. By the way, we could get to class. My wound should be healed and closed up. How about that? And sure enough, as they were sitting down a couple minutes later, he showed her his left palm was no longer bleeding and almost completely healed. Nada was glad his hand was all right, but she wondered about something. Naruto-kun, you shouldn't be able to heal that fast without using a medical ninjutsu. Naruto just shrugged, not worried about it. What can I tell you, Hinata-chan? I'm always heal fast. Hinata considered that. Naruto-kun, did you think you might have a bloodline limit? He looked at her, intrigued by the thought, but shook his head. Nope, there are no bloodlines limit in the clans of Uzumakis, neither of Namikaze's that I heard of. Hinata nodded and let it go, at least for now. Link break. Iruka looked out the class as they took their seats. There was quite a bit more conversation going on than usual. He noticed that Sasuke was the last one to arrive. To his surprise, a few of his students were pointing to him as seemingly to make some jokes. Sasuke sat down and pointedly ignored the attention he was receiving. Alright, class, settle down, please. I have some important announcement to make before we begin. He waited a moment before the kids finally quieted down. Alright, class, I have permission slips that all of you will have to bring home and have signed. What are they for, Iruka-sensei? Sakura asked. Iruka gave them a smile. This weekend, you will be going on your first field trip. We will be conducting a 2-day survival exercise in the woods outside the village. We're going outside the walls? Kiba asked excitedly. Iruka nodded. Yes, we will. Though it will only be a short distance away. Sounds troublesome. Shikamaru lifted his head from the desk. Can't we just do this at one of the village training grounds? Iruka frowned at his worst student. No. Each of you will be placed in a separate section of the forest and expected to find water, food, and shelter for 48 hours. None of the regular training grounds are larger enough for your needs. None of you need to be concerned. Though we will be outside the village walls, it will be quite safe. Link break. The man looked at the picture on his desk. The picture was about 15-year-old. It showed him standing beside his son. They had both been ninjas of the village, hidden in the rock. The picture had been taken to celebrate his son's promotion to Chunin. He could still remember how proud he'd been of Hideki. The boy had always made him proud. Then 2 months later, he died at the hands of Yellow Flash. Now he was slowly becoming an old man, with no son to carry on the family names. The Motosuwa clan would end with him. Well, the Yellow Flash had died more than 8 years ago, but the hatred and need for revenge didn't. Nothing he could do could bring Hideki back. Nothing he could do would cause pain to Namikaze Minato, who was beyond all earthly retributions now. But his hatred demanded that someone suffer. How sure are you of this information? He asked his assistant. Our agents in Konoha confirmed it. It seems reliable. The man behind the desk nodded. All this would cost him was money, and he had plenty of that. I want a 2-man Anbu squad sent out. The assistant shook his head. I'm afraid Anbu are not permitted to perform foreign missions unless they are at least of A rank. This has received a ranking of B. We can use Send Yuzuki and Gorilla. They do it. The mission is hereby upgraded to A rank. But sir, we haven't had the funds clearly to pay for an A rank. The older man frowned at his assistant's small-mindedness. I'll make up for the difference myself. His assistant stared at him. Typically bureaucrat, he could never understand why anyone would want to go outside the rules. Well, sir, if you're willing to pay it, I suppose we can assign them. The assistant paused a bit. But sir, if I may ask, why bother? The target isn't even a ninja. He's just an academy student. Hiring an Anbu to deal with him is a bit like hiring a master thief to pick up a wallet laying on the ground. I know he's a student. He also has the blood of a Hokage in his veins. Not to mention, he is reputed to have mastered shadow clones and summoning. Sir, that is ridiculous rumor, and likely to be nothing more than some child wild imaginations. He is reported to have killed a Chunin single-handedly. Is that also imagination? No, sir. That was definitely confirmed, but perhaps he was lucky. Well, he can have all the luck Kami is willing to share. Against the two, he won't stand a chance. For that, I'll pay any cost. The assistant sighed. I will do as you say, sir, though I don't understand it. Ever have any children, Fuji? No, sir. I won't bother trying to explain it then. Link break. Surveillance exercises. Kushina looked at the permission slip unhappily. Yeah, mom. This will be my very first time going outside the village walls. I'm so excited, he said. No. What? I said, no, Naruto-kun, you're not going. Kushina said simply, but everyone else is going. She lifted an eyebrow. Naruto-kun, I don't care about everyone else. I only care about you, and you are not going. But we're only going 10 miles, and it will only be for 2 days. Why can't I go? Simple, because 10 miles means 10 minutes before I can reach you. If anything happens, that's too long. Too much can happen in that much time. But mom, you know I can take care of myself. You can, Naruto-kun. That doesn't mean we should call danger. Oh, come on, mom. I mean, if it's safe enough for Shikamaru, how can it be too dangerous for me? Naruto-kun, for you stepping outside this village means being in greater danger, she said flatly. So the very first time I ever go outside the village walls, even a step, will be on my first mission? Mom, you're always saying I need to be ready for something or anything. How does keeping me so close do that? Wouldn't it be better for me to get experience being outside the village now instead of later when I will be a shinobi with a squad? She frowned at him. That made a distressing amount of sense. Looked at rationally, of course he should see what it is or what was like to go outside the village sooner than his first mission. And it was just an academy field trip. Maybe I have just too worried about him lately. I have to let him experience new things in order to grow. Seeing her hesitate, Naruto gave her a big confident smile. Come on, mom, I promise to be careful and to call you if there is anything wrong at all. She sighed and slowly nodded. Alright, Naruto-kun. I suppose it will be alright, as so long as you are careful. Taking a pen, she signed her name to the paper. Link break. Itachi waited patiently as the door to his father's study opened. 3 very angry-looking members of the police force exited. They each sent him an angry look but departed the house without a word. Fugaku looked at his son and heard, Please come into my study, Itachi. Itachi did so. His father shut and locked the door. Sit down, but I prefer to stand, Itachi answered calmly. Fugaku frowned. Very well. He sat behind his desk. Itachi, do you know anything about the drowning of Shisui? No. Itachi remained utterly calm. I can't read him at all. He might as well be a complete stranger. Shisui left behind a suicide note, but there is a suspicion that his death was a murder. I am that suspect. Again, there was no emotion at all. Fugaku nodded once more. Despite our recent disagreement, son, I have no wish for you to risk execution for something that may have not been your fault entirely. Itachi eyed him intently. You are not certain of my innocence. You believe I may indeed be his killer. It was not an accusation, just a statement. I do not know what to believe. Your behavior recently has been erratic. Shisui has been assigned to follow you. Last night when he was killed, you were the only clan member not attending the formal meeting. Thus you are the only clan member without an alibi for the time of Shisui's death. Itachi frowned. And only an Uchiha could possibly manage to kill another Uchiha. He shook his head. That sort of circular logic is what is reducing this clan to idiocy. Fugaku frowned. It is the statements like that which have made people wonder about you. You are the pride of the Uchiha clan and its most powerful member. Why must you constantly insult and degrade the clan and the immense value of Uchiha blood? Because you all insist that being an Uchiha is the end point rather than a starting point. We should each seek out our own path and seek the accomplishment as much as possible. This self-assurance we are mirrored is adores individual, initiate and drive. Fugaku shook his head. Uchiha blood is the best in the entire world. Never mind Konoha. There is nothing wrong in being proud of the fact and acknowledge it. he sighed. But that is not important now. What is important is the fact that you are under suspicion. I have used my influence to have the police to agree to a short delay in the proceeding while they gather more evidence. But you have no more than a few days. He brought his hand together before his face. I think it would be best for you to leave the village. Itachi stared at his father for a moment. You wish me to become a missing nin? His voice was dead and empty. For a few years only, after which I shall arrange a pardon with the Hokage. He leaned back in his chair. If you will perform one service for me prior to leaving Konoha, what do you wish me to kill? Itachi did not mean that as a joke. Fugawa did not take it as a joke either. Naruto Namikaze. Itachi lifted an eyebrow. You want me to kill the Namikaze clan here, and you expect me to believe that once I do so, you will be able to arrange pardon for me. Itachi allowed just the tiniest bit of mockery to lace in his voice. Once Naruto is dead, no one will regret it. Except his mother, Itachi pointed out. Once Naruto is gone, she won't last very long. Fugaku spoke with a grim certainty. Itachi eyed his father with a hint of interest. Indeed, you do realize you're speaking of the of exterminating one of Konoha's greatest clans. I think destroying this clan would be a benefit to entire village. I shall remember you said that, Itachi promised. Kushina is not of your concern. Will you do as I ask? Perhaps, but first, I wish to know the reason you and so many others are so eager to spill this blood. Fugaku frowned. The reasons are irrelevant. It should be enough that I ask it for you, and that doing so will be your own best interest. In that case, my answer is no. Itachi, why should you care about the reasons behind this? If I am to kill not only a clan here, but a promising ninja, I wish to know the reasons of it. Fugaku eyed his son with frustration. He has more potential than anyone else of the generation. Why must he insist on being difficult even now? Very well, I will tell you the secret. In doing so, I am breaking a law of the Sun Times. The punishment of breaking this law is death. I trust your understanding the seriousness of this matter. Itachi nodded. He found himself to be quite curious now. I do. Very well. To put it simply, Naruto is the QB. Itachi did not show it, but he was truly surprised. He had theorized quite a few reasons why Naruto might have been hated, but he had never come up with that one. He stood there and listened quietly as his father explained fully. And so that is why Naruto is hated and why killing him is a service to this village. Once he and his bitch of a mother are dead and buried, you will be welcomed back with open arms. Now then, will you do as I asked? Itachi frowned slightly. I have never heard of any evidence of demonic possessions in his behavior. He has a source of great power within him, which seems well capable of controlling. Would the village not be better off aiding him in mastering his power rather than trying to destroy him? His father stared at him. I have to remind myself that while I and other of our clans were out fighting that monster, you were safe here in the village. If you had ever seen the nine-tailed fox, you would have no doubts about killing it, whether it is a child or not. Itachi considered it. Perhaps. His father shut his eyes and ground his teeth. Even now, with the further future of the village and your own life at stake, you insist on being difficult. I'm not attempting to be difficult. The simple fact is I have not decided whether or not to kill him. Alright, son. I know how useless it is to argue with you, but keep this in mind. In a few days, you will be arrested if you are still within the village. Once you are arrested, I will wash my hands off of you. Should you flee this village, I will again wash my hands off of you unless you do as I ask. Is that clear? It is, father. With that, Itachi left his father's study. Link break. Hey Naruto, I hardly recognize you without your cloak on. Kiba greeted. It was early Saturday morning, and the class was gathering on the courtyard. As per instructions, they had not brought any camping equipment or food with them, and they each carried only one canteen of water. They were allowed to bring with them only weapons and the standard ninja equipment, and shinobi would be accepted or expected to have with them at the time. Currently, Naruto was dressed in the same black and red bodysuit he always wore beneath his cloak. I'll only wear that when I am in the village. I won't be wearing it when I'm on missions or leaving the village. They won't let me bring my snacks. Choji cried out. I'm going to starve. Choji, it's impossible to starve in just 2 days, Shikamaru said. But what am I supposed to do when I get hungry? I'll have to eat or I'll pass out of hunger. Don't worry, Choji. There are plenty of curved worms in the forest, and if you cook them over and open fire, they taste just like chicken. Naruto said. As soon as he said it, Choji put his hands over his mouth and tried to stop his dry heaves. Shikamaru smirked and Kiba laughed long and hard. Naruto-kun, that was awful. Hinata chided. He gave her his puppy dog look and turned to Choji. I'm sorry, Choji. It's okay, he said weakly. Naruto smiled at him. It actually beetles that taste like chicken. Choji's hands went back to his mouth and Kiba howled. Hinata crossed her arms over her chest and gave Naruto a look that clearly said, What am I going to do with you? Link break. Under Iruka and Mizuki's watch, they left Konoha and made their way to the section of the forest that had been set aside from the exercise. Each student was taken to a different section of forest and told to remain there until 8 a.m. Monday morning. Each student was left alone and was expecting to manage on his own. As soon as Iruka dropped him off, he got to work. Certainly creating 20 shadow clones, he set out hacking down trees limbs to build a shelter, looking for a water source, and hunting. In short order, he had a rough but efficient hut set up, a small spring found, and a campfire with a nice fat rabbit cooking over it. Finding the rabbit had been the easiest part. He seemed to have a natural gift of it. He didn't know about the other students, but he was sure to have no trouble managing a couple of days. Having eaten too, he took a little time to just enjoy the rather unique experience of being on his own for once. He had never been on his own for any extended time. For once, there was no one nearby who was watching out for him. No one was responsible for him. For the next, he checked his watch. 46 hours or so he was on his own. He smiled and looked up at the blue sky. He later liked it. Link break. Boo. Hinata dropped the branches she been gathering and instinctively jumped back, bringing her hands around her palm strike. He blocked her hand easily enough and gave Hinata one of his biggest smiles. Hey, gee, Hinata-chan, I thought you'd be happy to see me. Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? He shrugged. I was bored and I wanted to see you. But how did you find me? He smiled and rubbed the back of his head. Oh, well, I just searched the area until I spotted you. By the way, I'm about 40 miles that way. She stared at him. Naruto-kun, you can't be here. Why not? If Iruka or Mizuki-sensei find out, you'll be in trouble. Hinata-chan, they're not going to check on us. The whole point of this exercise is for us to survive on our own. But Naruto-kun, if you help me, that will be cheating. He looked around. Hinata had put together a shelter, had a fire going, and looked to have gathered a good number of roots and herbs. I don't think you need any help, Hinata-chan. I never thought you would. She smiled and felt pleasure for his simple praise. I was just bored and wanted to hang out with you. Oh? Her smile grew and she began to blush just a bit. He shrugged. If you want me to go, Hinata-chan, I guess I'll find Kiba or Shikamaru. She reached out and took a hold of his hand. No, Naruto-kun. You're always welcome. He smiled and relaxed the way he always did around her. Link break. He got back to his own camp a little more than an hour before sunset. He rebuilt the fire and found another rabbit for dinner. After another tasty meal, he watched as the sun set over the forest. It had been one of the best days of his whole life, and as he stood there looking at the setting sun, he felt the tiniest bit of chakra signature behind him. Casually, he put one hand in his belt and the switching of his radio communicator. He slowly turned around. Seeing who was there, he pressed the button down into the standing position. Hello, Itachi-san. Hello, Naruto-kun. A calm voice answered. As this is where I'm going to be leaving this part of, guys. I hope you like this one, and if you do, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And this is Apollo Uchiha, and I'm signing out. Peace.